There's a current college football player and pro prospect whose draft stock might rely more heavily on a rookie in the NFL than on his own performance. Anthony Richardson was taken with the 4th overall pick in this year's NFL draft by the Indianapolis Colts. He was widely regarded as the prospect with the highest ceiling and the lowest floor. It was a true gamble to go after him, but with his size standing at 6'5" and weighing 244 pounds and his athleticism, he ran a 4.4 40-yard dash, had a 40-inch vertical, and a 10-foot 9-inch broad jump. He set records for QBs in nearly every aspect of the combine. But that's not all that counts when it comes to getting drafted. Richardson had an up and down year at Florida. He showed off his athleticism and insane arm strength with runs of 50+ yards and passes that traveled the same amount of distance in the air. But he also showed some glaring weaknesses, only passing for 17 touchdowns against 9 interceptions, as well as the Gators going a pedestrian 6-7 on the season. He did enough to give his supporters a reason to believe, and he did enough to give his haters film to reference when discussing why he shouldn't be an NFL prospect. Soon enough, all those with opinions on the matter will be proven right or wrong because he appears to be slated as the Colts' starting quarterback for the 2023 season. All eyes will be on him to see if coaches can turn him into an efficient passer at the NFL level after only completing 53% of his passes last year in college. No eyes may be watching him more closely, though, than the scouts who know they'll be picking a quarterback next year, and the quarterback that benefits the most from a Richardson Rookie of the Year campaign, Joe Milton. So why should Joe Milton care more about what Richardson does than what he accomplishes this season? Because Richardson's stats and film weren't all that impressive his final season in college. In Milton's only 2 starts last season, when Hendon Hooker went down with injury, he was 2-0 and threw for 4 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Throughout the season, he appeared in 7 more games for spot duty and threw for 8 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He's yet to throw a pick since coming to Tennessee, and the reins have been handed over to him for this upcoming season. So as long as he can continue the success he had last season, even if he declines a little bit in interception percentage, then he'll be miles ahead of where Richardson was statistically. So then it comes down to his profile as a prospect. Joe Milton is also 6'5" and 244 pounds. He also has an absolute cannon for an arm, but is more accurate than Richardson. He also is incredibly athletic. He doesn't have a documented combine under his belt, but in an interview from 2020, he stated his most recent 40 time was 4.6 seconds. Nearly 4 years later, he will likely have improved on that number. He has great strength, pocket awareness, and mobility. So what are the downsides? He will be 23 this year, taking advantage of the COVID season and a red shirt to remain in college for his 6th year, so he'll be an old rookie. Compare that to Richardson, who turned 21 just before the draft this season. Once you're Milton's age, people tend to care less about potential and want the production. He almost certainly won't put up the exact same numbers as Richardson did at the combine, but I do expect him to be comparable. Truly, his biggest weakness is the same as Richardson, and that's his accuracy. Completion percentage doesn't tell the whole story because of the different passes each quarterback was asked to throw, but Milton completed 64% of his passes last season compared to Richardson's 53% in his final year in college. For Milton, it appears to be the intermediate passes that can sail on him a little bit, and in the NFL, those tend to turn into interceptions going the other way. He has 1 more year to show he can handle the duties as a full-time starter and get that percentage up while putting some great film together. Other than the two being very similar as prospects, there's more to the story as to why Milton needs Richardson to perform well. The NFL has been and always will be a copycat league. If you look back to the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a requirement that the quarterback be 6'3" or taller, stand tall in the pocket, and get rid of the ball quickly before things break down. The first barrier that went by the wayside was the height. In 2001, the barely 6-foot Drew Brees was drafted in the 2nd round. He had some decent seasons, but was replaced by the taller, more statuesque Phillip Rivers. It wasn't until he ended up in New Orleans with a coach who fully believed in him that he became a Super Bowl winning, first ballot Hall of Famer. This opened the door for teams to take chances on the 6-foot and under club members like Russell Wilson. The other barrier that disappeared, and is perhaps even more destroyed, is the idea of a truly dual threat quarterback. Guys like Randall Cunningham and Steve Young were doing this back in the 90s, but nobody busted through the door like Michael Vick. He put on a show every single time out and made it okay to be as elite as a runner as you are as a thrower, or even better. He made it okay for players like Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, RG3, Kyler Murray, and Justin Fields to be drafted in the 1st round. And finally, we have the latest iteration of prototypical quarterback with the likes of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence. Guys that are all 6'4 plus, north of 220 pounds, with cannon arms and mobility. Anthony Richardson looks to join this group or even expand on it as he's an inch taller than Allen, heavier than all of them, and much faster. If he can prove that accuracy and completion percentage can be taught, then Joe Milton's draft stock is going to skyrocket. He's currently projected to be picked on day 3 in the 4th or 5th rounds. Sure, his own play can do a lot to bring that up, but if the unthinkable happens and Richardson becomes the Offensive Rookie of the Year, then I think you'll see teams look at Milton as high as the 1st round to try and repeat that level of meteoric rise.